Welcome back, everybody, to the GSMC Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. We just got done talking about the top competitors for the USA basketball team in the Olympics, and now we're going to talk about the Professional Women's Hockey League, or PWHL. So the PWHL was pretty successful last year. They put together a season, broadcasting, rosters, venues, and built a fan base in weeks and months, not years. It was an impressive feat for the startup league that continued to showcase the immense market for women's professional sport in North America. But as always, the work continues, and there are some things the league needs to improve upon and do. They continue to face timelines that many corporations would see as unrealistic, and along the way, it's meant the league has needed to cut some corners and had their share of missteps. The good news is most of those missteps have been behind the scenes with little to no impact on fans, at least not at first glance. The league is still sprinting to meet deadlines, and there's a lot to be done over next season and beyond. So in this segment, we are going to discuss some of the few most pressing issues the PWHL will need to find ways to address soon. So let's start with the team names and logos. Right now, the PWHL has 6 names trademarked: Boston Wicked, Montreal Echo, Toronto Torch, Ottawa Alert, Minnesota Superior, and New York Sound. Even after months of sitting with these names, fans are still split. Some still hate them, while others have mellowed out a bit. But here's the deal: there still aren't any official team names, and fans are really itching for them. Not having team names isn't just about branding, it's a huge financial miss. The first year saw solid sales of generic merch, but branded team gear could seriously skyrocket those numbers. Fans want to show off their team pride with jerseys, hats, and all of that, but by not having officials' names, the PWHL is potentially leaving a ton of money on the table. There are now hundreds of mock logos and names floating around that the league could tap into, just like the NHL's Seattle Kraken did. The Kraken nailed it by involving fans in the process, which built up a lot of excitement and led to big merchandise sales. The PWHL could definitely do the same by getting fan input and making them feel involved. If the league heads into another season without official team names, it's likely to get even more flack from fans like myself. Team names aren't just labels, they're the start of team identity and traditions. Without them, the league misses out on building a strong fan connection and long-term loyalty. Getting these names sorted out is about more than just cash, really. It's a key step in the league's growth and stability. Team names create a sense of history and identity, which is crucial for building a dedicated fan base. They also make marketing and community outreach way easier, helping to solidify the PWHL spot in the sports world. On top of that, official team names can boost media coverage and attract more sponsorships. Brands are way more likely to partner with teams that have strong, recognizable identities. This means bigger sponsorship deals and more venues for the league. Team names can also ramp up fan engagement on social media and other platforms. With official names and logos, the league and team can create more targeted content, driving higher engagement and reaching more people. So in short here, the PWHL's delay in announcing team names is a missed chance and opportunity that affects fan engagement, potential revenue, and the league's overall growth. By locking in and embracing team names, the PWHL can boost merch sales, strengthen its brand, and build a deeper connection with fans. This isn't just really an admin task, it's essential for the league's future success. The PWHL needs to get this sorted to avoid more criticism and fully tap into its potential as a top women's hockey league. Now let's talk about player compensation. This is a big one too. But to be fair to the PWHL, they've locked down a pretty investor-friendly deal that keeps labor costs low and under control for a surprising 8 years. There's a reason you usually don't see collective bargaining agreements or CBAs before a league even starts. Mainly it's because you need a group of players to have a unified voice, and that doesn't exist until the league is actually up and running. Here's the kicker. Only 36.7% of the players who played this season came from the PWHPA last year, so the CBA was basically decided by about a third of the league. What's even wilder is that 40 former players who never even played a game in the league and some who never planned to had a say in shaping the future of the sport. Meanwhile, most of the current players who are the ones actually competing didn't get a vote at all. The result, a small group of well-paid well-paid players, while many others are just scraping by and might leave the league for better opportunities financially. So the PWHL, PA, and PWHPA now have to figure out how to fix this mess. The league has made it clear they won't reopen the financial terms of the CBA, which are set until 2031, but maybe there's some room for compromise on revenue-related aspects. On a positive note, they did offer more guaranteed contracts this offseason and set minimum salaries for players picked in the first 3 rounds of the draft. These were definitely steps in the right direction. However, the fact that the CBA doesn't include a revenue share for athletes or a cut of the broadcasting rights is a huge miss to players. Anyway, ultimately, to sum it up here, while the PWHL has secured a financially stable future with this labor deal, it's left a lot of players in a tough spot. The league needs to find ways to address these issues and ensure that all players have a fair shot at making a decent living. Balancing investor interest with player welfare is crucial for the long-term success of the league and the growth of women's hockey. And you can't have a league if you don't have players. So they really need to figure this out. So the third thing I wanted to address was the home venues. The PWHL plans to ramp up its neutral site games next season, building on the success they saw this year. These games were a fantastic way to sell tickets, boost merchandise sales, and attract both national and regional media attention. The league has said they're going to keep this strategy going strong with even more neutral site games next year. However, the PWHL has also realized they missed some big opportunities with their current venues. Imagine telling the league before the season started that they sell out every game in Toronto weeks in advance. They would have been ecstatic. While they're undoubtedly thrilled about the sellouts, they must now recognize the extra revenue they could have raked in with better suited venues for some teams, if that makes sense. In Toronto, for instance, the Coca-Cola Coliseum seems like a logical future home. The team moved there for the playoffs and kept selling out, proving the venue's potential. New York had more success in New Jersey, which highlights the need for better venue choices. The league wisely pulled out of Bridgeport, Connecticut, after it proved to be a disaster. But to really tap into one of the biggest markets in the world, the league needs to find a way to actually play in New York City. That's like where the big thing is. Their only visit to Manhattan was for skating outdoors and announcing their captain, but they didn't play any games in Manhattan or Brooklyn. Lowell drew better than expected crowds for Boston, but the league must see they lost out on fans by not being in the city itself. Montreal's time at the Verdun Auditorium is likely over as a primary venue, given the huge crowds they pulled at Place Bell and Bell Center. More consistent and appropriate venues where the league can establish strong branding are a must for the future. In summary, while the PWHL's neutral site games have been a hit, there's still plenty of room for improvement. This is something that, it's always going to be needing room for improvement. Literally all of these things, except for team logos and names, I feel like you just need to get that done. Player pay and or compensation can always be improved upon, and same with venues. So yeah, this is definitely something they need to improve upon if they want to make money here. The league needs to find venues that not only accommodate large crowds, but also enhance the overall fan experience. By doing so, they can maximize revenue, build a stronger brand presence, and ensure a more engaging and accessible experience for all fans. And here's something that I didn't actually really take into consideration about venues themselves, especially with sports that aren't as popular. Okay, for instance, this is the most random example, but Joshua Bassett had a concert sometime this month. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of him, but I just saw that his ticket sales were 20% of the venue. But the venue he was at was for someone who's a bigger name. That was setting him up for failure, putting him in a venue that was so large. That's the thing is the league will want to start out in a smaller venue and then move to bigger venues, but that's not possible when it comes to sports. Because it's you stick with the venue after a while. Does that make sense? I don't know if that's making any sense, but it's just a lot of planning and strategy that I never really considered with venues. I guess maybe I'm just not that adept at understanding how venue planning works and all of that. But, so it's not just, I don't know. There's a lot to this. I don't know. My whole point with the ticket sales and stuff is you don't want to have a game seem like it's a complete sellout all the time, because then it's like, okay, we need more people at the stadium. We need a bigger stadium. But then at the same time, you don't want it to be too large in the beginning where you're like, okay, well, no one's coming to our games. Like, no one's going to want to, because people are more attracted to going something if they see that it's been a sellout, if that makes sense. I don't know. There's just like a lot of complicated factors that go into it. So yeah, there's a lot to that. But we're now going to move into the next segment where we preview the Amundi Evian Championships that will take place next weekend. Before we get into that, we're going to be taking a very short break. So I will see you guys all very soon.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.